Welcome to episode 123 of Nobody Special.
In this episode, we talk about John Crist and Bethel shall not pass.
The Gospel Outpost presents Nobody Special. Hey everyone, welcome to Nobody Special, two nobodies talking about the somebody who matters. I'm Danny, the host and wizard specialist of Nobody Special.
And I'm Caleb, you're the host of Nobody Special. This is the podcast where two generations of people talk about God, pop culture, politics, and everything in between, all while not taking any of it too seriously.
Hey Caleb, how you doing?
Doing good. I've been better, but I'm doing good.
You are not here next to me right now.
No, I'm in the comfort of my own home.
Yeah, we've been a couple of two kind of sick boys the past couple of weeks. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think both of us, are we allowed to say it, that possibly both of us had the COVID?
Yeah, I mean, my test results aren't back as of this
mine
recording,
aren't either.
but I'm pretty positive.
Yeah, so apologies about our previous episode. I was at a place that I slept for about 4 days, and actually the taping day, that was the first day I started actually feeling better, but still wasn't interested in staying up till midnight to get an entire episode out, and you were stuck someplace else entirely, and then after that started feeling a bit symptomatic, so.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So I literally, I did the same thing, or I've been sleeping a ton, but I'm still showing symptoms, so that's why we're not meeting in person.
Right.
We figured it would be safe to not, obviously.
Right.
So my biggest one is I lost my taste and smell, which has been terrible.
See, I think I had that a bit. I'm not positive, but there is a thing that both of us experienced that I thought it was pretty interesting. That to me, Wendy's tasted a lot better after I got COVID. Do you know what I mean? Wendy's hit different at that point. That was the best kind of a Frosty I've ever had, and I know that there was an experience that you had close to that also.
Yeah, since I can't taste anything, I don't know, for some reason McDonald's, I've been eating their nuggets. So like instead of tasting things, in order there's no flavor, so I'm basically going off of like salty, sweet. Like I can tell if it's spicy or if there's like an acidity to it. So like in texture basically. So like their McDonald's nuggets with ranch sauce is really good because they're like salty, and then there's the like acidity of like the vinegar and or like acidity of ranch, and so like that plays well. Like it's just more interesting than like I was eating lasagna and it basically tasted like mush,
right, with
like some sweetness,
right,
and saltiness.
Yeah. And then the other food that both of us actually got a ton of comfort out of was watermelon. That, man.
Yes.
The first 2 days of that, I didn't eat anything but a few pieces of watermelon, and that was fantastic. That was the best thing ever. It was cold. It was fantastic. It was so good. And, it's kind of crazy the way it kind of affected the palate a bit. I mean, coffee to me doesn't taste the same at this point, and I'm kind of not sure what to do with that a little bit, but I can still taste it. I still have a horrible taste in my mouth, so I can still taste it. I still know it's there, but I don't know. Maybe I just need different coffee. I know that's come up before, but yeah.
I need to show you the ways of coffee.
I had a French press. I have no idea where it is. I think it's at one of the other places I was staying at a point, but yeah. Right. No, I was super upset that we didn't tape anything, even if it was just a a Caleb ep on his own, just because so many things happened that I wanted to talk about, and I was going to talk about today, but so many other things happened and they're all dated, so it's just like, oh, we have to talk about it and can't talk about the fact that TikTok is essentially a national security risk, and that is hilarious to me because I can't stand TikTok at all.
Right?
I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's a weird concept. Kids do gross stuff on it, and apparently it just takes everyone's personal data and sends it to some server in China. And that was crazy that kind of Department of Defense, I think, is encouraging people to delete TikTok, and people in the Army are being told it cannot be on your phone because they're tracking it. And I'm like, that's insane. Yeah. That's insane. This is an air thrusting app for teens.
That is hilarious.
That's insane.
It's so annoying. I don't know why. Like, I feel like for some reason I'm the old man in all of this, because even, like, my older siblings have it. And I'm like, I don't care about it, and I don't want to use it.
And now it's a national security risk.
So look who came out on top, guys. Look who came out on top.
I mean, granted, they probably still have the info, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then, let's see. Kanye West announced he was running for president, and then he dropped out, and today he's back in and filing documents to run for president. And I know people that are being honest about considering Kanye for president, and I just don't even know what's real anymore. And so many things. Terry Crews got called out for trying to say for trying to say a ton of different things. And
I saw that. I read his tweet. That was interesting.
And then Will Smith, that whole thing occurred, and wow.
What happened with Will Smith?
Huh?
What happened with Will Smith?
Oh, Will Smith has a kind of I think it's a Facebook kind of a program that he interviews people at a red table, and they get into deep controversial topics. And so he straight up asked Jada, his wife, did you have an affair with some guy? And Jada called it an entanglement. They got into an entanglement, and Will kind of pushed back and said, like, no, it was more than an entanglement, and it was an affair. So we got to watch Will Smith find out live that his wife had an affair as he was interviewing her on his program on Facebook, and she straight up called it an entanglement. They got into an entanglement together.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Like, why? Okay, if that were to occur, I mean, this sounds terrible, but, like, I would not say that on something that's live. I would at least be like, oh, no, haha, and then bring it up later in a private conversation. But, that's awkward.
Yeah, but this happened about a year and a half ago or something. So, and the dude is, he's like 20 or something. So, or in his 20s. Yeah. The whole thing is very unhealthy, just all around. And,
wow.
But to call it an entanglement, and then Jada had said, I'm the only person that gives me permission, is like, boy, that is some messed up stuff to say as you're cheating on your husband. I mean, that it's pretty messed up, but it's like, okay, that's all old news now, because so much has happened, and I didn't get to talk about any of that. So now, all right. About the entanglement thing, a thing as that came out, I thought to myself, oh goodness, there's going to be some pastor, and he's going to do a sermon series called Entanglement in about a month. And Caleb, I was wrong.
You were wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I was wrong.
Is that a first for you, Danny?
No. Well, yeah. A pastor did a sermon series on it in 3 days. So not a
Oh,
month.
wow.
But I saw someone advertising a sermon series on sin called Entanglement. And I'm like, oh, don't do this.
I mean, it's a good word to describe it.
Entanglement?
Entanglement.
That's
I know,
a-
it sounds so like mythical.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's a... She was trying to not say I had an affair. I'm sorry. Entanglement is
Yeah, I
just...
don't even know what that
Oh, it's not even my
means.
fault. You know, like, no.
And,
It's not an entanglement. It's an affair. You
What
had
is the
an
definition
affair.
of entanglement? Being caught up in something?
Yeah, as in it's not her fault. It's an entanglement. She just got entangled in this whole thing and all that. Tried to do that at first, and I mean, it's pretty common in people to try and distance themselves in a mental kind of capacity to a thing that they know they screwed up. People don't enjoy being open about that, and they try and either paint themselves as as it isn't their fault, and kind of pitch it in a way to protect their own brain. It's an odd thing that the brain does to protect itself. Is it makes up a whole bunch of garbage, to say like, oh yeah, it was just I was It's kind of the same thing as Christians going, I'm struggling through this sin. Like, no, you're not. You ain't struggling at all. Man, that's a sin that you're enjoying. And the faster that you say that, the easier it's going to be to get out of it. So yeah, man, it was been a crazy week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it has. And I think, my favorite thing that's happened is one of our beloved comedians.
Yes. Speaking of entanglements.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Tell me about it, man.
So I was excited to see it because I haven't seen him in a while. John Crist.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly forgot he even existed, which is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he popped up in the Instagram feed, and with his kind of apology, or
Mm-hmm.
on camera, I guess, just kind of saying he's back and that, what he did was wrong, and he made some really good points on comparing to how he would have reacted before everything was happening, and
Right.
showing that how he's changed, and the fact that he is able to own up to what he did now.
Yeah.
And realize that he had a problem.
Yeah.
And before, he said he was probably just gonna brush it off and blame some other people.
Yeah. Yeah, call it an
and-
entanglement or something. Yeah.
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 Come on.
It's not my fault. Those pictures
Yeah.
texted themselves.
But I think that he made a good kind of some good points, and
Mm-hmm.
and some interesting ones too. Something he said was, I thought that that I was going to be judged more due to the crowd of Christians that he's
Right.
around.
Right.
But he said there was more support than he thought there would be,
Yeah.
which I guess is good.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, I would have thought the same thing, that he would have been judged super harshly, which, he kind of was back then. But
So yeah, I think he was. Part of the story is, John Crist attended a rehab program that didn't even have access to his phone for 3 to 4 months and all that. And so as far as encouragement goes, it was, I think he mentioned his sister printed out a few of the things, or called him to encourage John in all that. And I'm guessing it's probable that there is a filtering of content that got through and didn't just hit the print all button to send to him. But that's kind of the core of a good amount of problems on internet culture, is that any person can speak to anything at any time, and I can choose if I'm going to pay attention to the negative or to the positive, and a fair amount of people just tend to focus on the bad stuff going on, and
Right.
and then out of that go, oh no, got to cancel him, and then two people claimed that, and now it's people are claiming on the internet that blah 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 needs to be canceled, and that's true in that two is more than one and can be people, but there's there's a filtering that needs to occur in order to actually grow and improve in things. And so I'm glad that there was actually a good amount of people claiming to give this man grace, while at the same time not condoning anything that he did. I mean, that was another part of this I appreciate, is that John Crist did not condone any of it or try and go, it's not my fault, it was a condition or anything. He said, like, no, I made bad decisions that had a fair amount of impact on a ton of people that isn't fair, and a ton of people got hurt. And I appreciated the honesty in all this.
Yeah, and I'm super glad that he's back too. I actually popped in on his like Instagram stories after that, and it was just like, I don't know, it was like the good old days before quarantine and everything.
Right.
And I mean, he's hilarious, and I think that I'm excited to see what he's got. I mean, like, and it has to be interesting. I don't know, like, being a comedian, being, so lighthearted with everything. And, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a comedian. I don't know how it works or how they even do what they do. But, like, coming off of something like that, that naturally, I would say, has a lot of pruning and is hard to go through. And kind of trying to get back into your funny side, like, has to be interesting. So I'm curious to see, what he's got. Yeah,
I mean, especially for John Crist, that, I mean, even the comedy aspects of things now add on top of that the Christian aspects. I mean, I've talked about in the past that Christian comedians, I feel, do play the role of prophet to an extent in the Christian church, of being able to call out the places that they're departing the faith. I mean, John Crist made the man's entire thing is based in pointing out the points that the church is being very and open about not being the church and being a hypocrite. And now John came out and said that although that's his content, probably the biggest kind of a hypocrite in all of it, it turned out to be him. And to say that is to be ironic. The least kind of a hypocritical thing he could have said is to say, I'm a big hypocrite. So kind of it was nice to see a person go, I screwed up and I'm also covered in grace. I mean, this entire thing, I think there was a few problems in the way it got kind of started and brought out, but overall, after that point, it's actually been an encouraging process. And there's the part in Galatians chapter 6 that talks about this. And can you go ahead and read that for us?
Yeah. Galatians 6, 1-5. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. For each will have to bear his own load. And that's a great verse for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was part of the entire things that he did, is that John needed to have some people come in, take him out of the production aspects of things, actually put him in a better place, send him to a rehab and all that. And then kind of the other part that stood out is that after 8 months of all this, John doesn't claim to be a thing that he isn't, or try and kind of deceive himself, but is actually at this point testing his own works. I mean, he's not coming out of it going, hey, I'm perfect, everything is fine, everything is fixed, and is still talking about there's a good amount of growth that needs to take place, but is still being open and honest about all of his all the struggles and stuff that he's going through. So,
Right.
I mean, that takes it takes a person being pretty brave to come out and do that, especially as a comedian, to come out and put out a video for the first time in 8 months that isn't funny. But
Right, yeah.
it's important to take that time to go through the steps in order to grow closer to Christ, and then jump back into a career.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It got me thinking just about the amount of times people try to rationalize or make excuses to their sin, but instead of just kind of coming straight at it and saying, no, I have a sin problem, and I'm being open and honest about it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool to see. I mean, especially on such like a large level like that.
Yeah.
And even a comedian who's revered by, comedians who aren't even Christian.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good representation of what, that he's not playing around. Like, because, let's be honest, like, if he wasn't a Christian, this wouldn't be as big of a deal. And, maybe there would have been some, some things, but like pushback from the woke people. But like,
right.
I think that it's cool for non-Christian comedians who to look at him and see what he's doing to, let Christ in and take that time.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool to see.
Oh, yeah, this isn't condoning anything that he's done, but it is taking it as an opportunity to speak gospel, to say, hey,
Right.
I was doing this, and I know that's a bad thing, and now I am coming closer to Christ because I know I need him. And just the importance of that. I mean, it's been a crucial, the way that John goes through this, it's been crucial to everybody to see the gospel at display in a person. And I think all of us can actually take an understanding out of being honest about all of our junk. I mean, everybody has junk, and anybody that claims they don't is just kind of deceiving themselves. And if I'm honest about it, it makes it easier to handle instead of needing to bury it. I mean, everybody goes through stuff, but until I'm attacking it, until I'm being intentional about waging war against the flesh, then I don't think I'm actually going to make any progress on it.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, calling out the sin to the thing that it is, I think, is actually important, but then to handle it in a manner in keeping with Scripture and under the gospel of grace. So,
yeah, I mean, not all of us have like the luxury, I'd say, of just being able to up and go to rehab.
Right.
But like, I think it's cool because it's literally, doing a 180, which is what the Bible tells us to do. We don't just consider what the Bible says and be like, okay, I'll just tiptoe around. It says turn around and flee.
Right.
And so for him to basically do that, put him in a situation where he doesn't have a phone,
Yeah.
Like he's not put in any situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's good
Mm-hmm.
and
Well,
respectable for sure.
I didn't prep this beforehand, and I should know where this is, and I'm drawing a blank, but it's better that a man cut off his arm than be cast into hell. Kind of that type of thing, that if I am needing to choose between keeping a phone and torpedoing my relationship with Jesus Christ, then that needs to be a really easy decision, I think.
Yeah.
And I've even talked to a few people about as pastors, kind of they fall into temptation and sin and that kind of stuff, that they care. It needs to be the perspective of the pastor and the congregation, that they care so much about the pastor that they are willing to torpedo the man's job in order to save his soul. That if a person is struggling through a thing that is affecting the ability to be in a pastoral office, then for the sake of the eternal destiny of the pastor, I need to put my connection to Christ above my job.
Right. And
that's a hard thing to do, because it challenges all of our day-to-day, okay, I need to pay bills, I need to do this, and all the things I need to do as an adult. But compared to the eternity of being with Christ, those things don't matter. And I think people tend to get that out of order a bit, that if I'm pursuing God, then the other things, including my job, don't matter.
Right.
And that's maybe an oversimplification, but it's still a good point, that if I'm pursuing Christ, then the other things don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about focusing on Christ. And if you're not looking at him, you're looking at other stuff.
Right.
I mean, we're pretty simple as far as the way human beings work. We can't look at multiple things at once, basically.
Right.
At least it's hard for us to.
Right.
So that's
can't
why
serve two
trusting
masters.
God with everything and looking at him is the way you got to do it. I mean, it's hard. Because, I mean, it's easy to look at your situation and look at your situation, but yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the issue of being honest about all of our junk is tough. And to stop calling them entanglements, but actually call them, no, it's sin, straight up. It is a sin issue, and all of us have it. So, and until all of us are waging war against our own sin, then to a certain extent, there's going to be this area that I'm not giving over to Christ, and that is idolatry, that I value my sin more than I do Christ.
Yeah.
So no, I'm glad John is coming back doing better. John, as if I know him. Mr. Crist, I'm glad he's back doing better, and keep praying for everybody connected to this. I know there's still a fair amount of hurt, a fair amount of confusion, because this is a guy everybody looked up to because of his faith, and then to find out that he struggles just the same as everybody else. So that's always hard.
Yeah.
And then there's other cases that things occur in churches that can be difficult or confusing, or bad teachings that can occur in churches that need to be talked about also. But it's important to do that in a grace-filled manner.
What could you be talking
to
about,
all
Danny?
people that are involved? Hey, speaking of, I want to talk about Bethel and Gandalf. Before I jump in, my knee jerk on this was to come in guns blazing and just blast away. So I'm glad this happened a few days ago and not a few hours ago, because I've had a bit of time to think that if I do come in blazing and critical, then I'm still putting down a person created in the image of God. So I'm going to try and do this in a manner that is honoring to the image that the people are made in.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. I have no idea what this story is, so I'm excited to hear it. Because
did you see the video?
Very interesting. No, I did not.
You did not. Okay, so I'm going to give you a rundown.
Okay.
Bethel Church, who in a lot of the Calvinistic kind of a circles has often been called a cult and a false teacher and should be called out. Those are all quotes. Yes. So, and I don't necessarily disagree, but that's a thing that can be gotten into. So they had a 2-hour kind of a service addressing the social issues in Bethel and in their grouping of churches called Ecclesia. And a part of that is they brought out a person, a part of their church, that is also, I found out, an actress in a few different TV shows, but and she starts talking about how there's been problems of racism in the culture, and everybody's been a participant to some extent, and they're going to stand in their apostolic gifting to call out the spirit of a racism, that it stops here. And to do that, they reenacted a scene from The Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I like where this is going.
Where they had a staff and a robe on stage. Sorry, I'm trying. And they banged the staff 3 times and said, "You shall not pass," because Gandalf said it 3 times, and they were calling out the spirit of racism, that it cannot pass.
They claimed that he said it 3 times?
Yeah. Hold on. Don't get ahead of me on that one.
Continue.
Don't get it.
This is crazy, and I love it. Okay.
Yeah. So like, I don't even know where to go with this. So like, they all of them grabbed a hold of the staff, banged it on the stage, which, by the way, is crazy hard to do, as 8 people are touching the same staff. So it didn't have. I think they were hoping it would have a bigger thud than it did, but they had everyone stand, because everybody is a king and part of the apostolic nature of Christian buzzwords. And they banged it on the stage, said, "You shall not pass." They did that 3 times, and then they kind of. They're getting slightly misconstrued, although not that much, as claiming they ended racism in Bethel and Ecclesia. And that is the final point where I can be objective.
Okay, I love it. There are so many things to dissect there that are freaking crazy, and they're crazy. Basically.
Well, hold on. Still made in the image of God. Made in the image of God.
Yes. Oh, of course. No, you can be made in the image of God and still be crazy.
I'm trying to address the doctrinal error, the massive doctrinal error that they made.
I mean, yeah, I think that calling out, like, what they're trying to do, is just.
Yes.
I love it. You know.
Yes.
I think that everyone should do that. We should definitely pray about racism and that it should end. No doubt. But like, why do this ritual that is nowhere near biblical? I mean, Lord of the Rings is as close to the Bible as you're gonna get as far as story, but like, still, you're not there, guys. You know, so like, but like, you know.
Can we tackle the nerd bit first?
What's that?
Can we tackle the nerdy bit first?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, put aside theology just for a second. first of all, this person's talking about the movie, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings. Now, first of all, it's also a book, but that's fine. That's fine. I'll skip that. I get it. There's 2 chapters in there. They're 50 pages. They're really boring. A lot of people tune out. But it's a book. Okay, cool. Then this person's claiming that Gandalf, that he did it 3 times.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie so many times. The first thing I thought was, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He did it 1 time, maybe 2, arguably.
You shall not pass.
Uh-huh. And then, do you know the thing that happened after that?
The big old whoosh, where he slammed it down once.
Yeah. After that.
Where he fought the Balrog.
Uh-huh. And then what?
And then died.
And then he died. He died. Caleb, do you remember the last thing he said before falling down the deep chasm to continue to fight the Balrog, and then fight to the top of the hill again? Do you know the last thing he said before he fell?
Fly, you fools.
Fly, you fools. And I just, at this point, for the leadership of a church to come up and say, this is our example, should 100%, I'm just going to say it, I feel that's probably good advice at this point. To be so unsoundly biblical that you're deciding it's like, no, to cast out the spirit of racism, I'm going to reenact this kind of a scene from the Lord of the Rings, then fly, you fools probably isn't bad counsel at this point. Do you know what I mean? Like, Gandalf died. He died after that. Granted, he came back, sure.
Yes.
Cool, but he ain't in the rest of that movie.
So let's just play if this were to go how Lord of the Rings actually went. I just want to follow the strain of logic.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're calling out the spirit of racism, which is the Balrog, and then they are saying that they are Gandalf.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So this means that they would die.
Right.
With racism,
right?
I guess they'd
come back as a stronger form of racism. No, I don't know, and I think that is giving it too much credit. Actually, I had a couple people text and ask questions about this, and the question I had is kind of the same, or kind of the question I kind of gave back is the same question I'll ask now. What did they actually do?
Nothing. I mean, they didn't use the name of Jesus.
No,
they
did not
pray.
Yeah,
they called something out.
Did they?
I guess that's Did they?
I mean,
yeah. I mean. Gosh.
What did they do? That was kind of the thing. Now there's a whole bunch of people claiming it's like they're invoking a witchcraft. And I'm like, no, I'm not willing to go that far. I think witchcraft is a bit more organized or intentional.
Right.
They are reenacting a scene out of a movie. And if I'm going to claim that they're doing witchcraft, then I have to say that watching those movies is also doing witchcraft, and I'm not okay doing that.
Well, I think that they're onto a point in the sense that, I feel like this is closer to witchcraft than it is to prayer.
Oh, yeah.
In the sense that, like, I can watch The Lord of the Rings. I'm not gonna, I have, but I haven't, truly meant it, but I'm not gonna, go outside and slam down in, full being genuine, slam down the staff and be like, you shall not pass, racism.
And think that it works, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's weird, Yeah. That's real odd.
But, so I'm going to give them credit, even though they have been associated to things that are Christian tarot cards, which, by the way, that's an oxymoron and not a real thing, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Even though they have been associated to those kinds of things, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, and this I feel is very generous. I don't think it's witchcraft because of the clear explanation that this is from a movie, but I don't think that it's anything, and I mean that in the most demeaning way possible. This is a nothing. It is posturing. It is trying. It is the same thing as changing a Facebook profile picture to have a filter on it during a time of tragedy to say I also feel, and it doesn't do anything. Jeez. I mean, do they think they? And this is an actual question I have: is that do they actually think they stopped racism in their church and in their grouping of churches? Do they truly think that the spirit of racism is defeated by their doing that? Because if they do, then I'd claim they're way off base, because they're doing it in the authority of Gandalf the Grey, who, by the way, is not even the strongest Gandalf. Instead of doing it in the authority of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So do they actually think they did that, or is this just posturing?
Like, I just don't see how people are... I don't know. I just don't see how people are keeping up in supporting this church, like, or not even calling it out. Like, I mean, sure, there may be people there, but like within the congregation,
they're a huge congregation.
But it's just
that's part of the problem.
Plainly not biblical,
right?
Like, they did nothing. Yeah, like, I fully agree with that. That's literally what this is. They did nothing. They didn't.
It's posturing. It's staying woke. It's appeasing a crowd and preying on people's emotional ends instead of actually doing a real change. I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that claims there's no racism out there. Actually, I do think there is a racism out there. As to extent and everything else, I'm open to debate, absolutely. But as a Christian, to just claim I can take a stick and bang it on a stage, then I've done my part, is so anti-biblical.
And it's funny, like, the fact that, you know, if their goal is truly to, you know, do something against racism.
Right.
Like, it would have been better for the whole congregation to stay at home and to, like, watch the movie Just Mercy, or some movie that's good on, like, educating you on something about racism.
Right.
You know, like, the fact that they literally did nothing towards anything is, like, if you're gonna go at it in an unbiblical way, like, not even to say that in a negative connotation, just like in a way that is not through prayer or through talking to God about it. Like, you did it the most ineffective way possible. Which is why, like, I mean, they're kind of crazy.
Well,
like, I'm gonna love them because they're my brothers and sisters, but, like, you know.
Oh, yeah, this is the point that the distinction between non-biblical and unbiblical becomes important. Because, I mean, I type on a computer. Okay, that is a non-biblical in that the Bible just doesn't address it. They didn't have computers then, so it's non-biblical. This, though, isn't non-biblical. It isn't that they couldn't determine if this is okay because the movie hadn't come out. This is anti-biblical. This is unscriptural. This is going against the mandates of how we are to do these things. If it is a demonic spirit, it's casted out in the name of Jesus and then move on. It is not our own authority or power that does that. I don't bring anything to this equation other than the actual problem itself. It is Jesus that casts out demons, and all these people trying to claim it's our job to fight demons. Well, it's not. It actually is 100% not our job. That job goes to Christ, and Christ is super pumped about that, a final day of being able to come in and clean up. I mean, that is a part that God is excited to be present in that kind of a moment. To bring justice to demons. It is our job as people to come to Christ. And if I'm if I'm being attacked by spirits, then I cast them out in the authority of Jesus Christ, not in my own apostolic kingship. And that's kind of a thing that they buy into. But I don't actually have an apostolic kingship. I have the Christ as king over everything.
Right. Yeah. I think that. Yeah, and that's 10 times better than whatever apostolic. What is apostolic kingship for all the people that don't know? Including myself.
Okay, so apostolic is one of those terms that when I hear it now, I cringe at it a bit because it gets used very poorly to the point that people claim there are no more apostles. Now, granted, I would disagree on that, but that's a whole different problem. The way it's intending is that apostle in the Greek, kind of a context of the Spirit gives them there to be apostles, prophets, priests, teachers, and pastors. No, hold on, I'm not saying that right. Apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists. There we go. The apostle is kind of the sending aspect of it, the sending person that empowers, equips, and sends out the others to do the ministry in their areas. At this point, though, it's tended to be a title given to people based in the 12 apostles, 12 plus 1 minus 1. The apostles and Paul are there people that claim those are the apostles, in that they carry a kind of authority over other Christians, essentially. So it's in this context, it's being used as a authoritative, I have the power type of mentality. And I feel that tends to be pretty dangerous because it, although it claims it focuses on the empowering of the Holy Spirit, it actually ends up taking the Holy Spirit out of the equation altogether. If I'm the chief apostle, the chief king, and all that, then I have no use of God, and that is not a stance that God is interested in maintaining for anybody. The chief apostle and king will be Christ always. Period. The end. Forevermore. Amen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's just funny because I am so pro using the Lord of the Rings as a demonstration or an explanation for something. I think it's not used enough.
As a metaphor. It's a phenomenal metaphor.
Yeah. And
terrible
it's
manual.
funny because I even, I think about Lord of the Rings a lot. It's my favorite movie series of all time.
Yeah.
And, the books, they're all right. But I'm a filmmaker, so I appreciate movies more.
Right.
But, I literally will just, dwell on things and, God will teach me stuff or speak to me through just thinking about the Lord of the Rings, which sounds really nerdy. So, I'm totally pro. I'm trying to think of the last thing. Oh, yeah. I was filming this video for this church it's an Episcopal church, which I don't know a lot of that stuff. So, but it's the Easter Vigil, and where the service starts out completely dark, starts out from one candle until the whole room is lit by candles, basically signaling that Christ is risen.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And then I look at Lord of the Rings when they're lighting the signals.
Yes.
I can't remember the actual names. The signals to let them
beacons
know that they're trying to go get it to Rohan, basically. So it's kind of like this scene of them lighting all of these things, and it's catching on one by one, and like I couldn't help but look at that and be like, that's what it is we're basically, one by one, Christ is bringing people into his kingdom, and he is, lighting this flame within us, so that everyone else can see it, and that, they will know him by our love.
Right.
And it catches on one by one, and we're basically proclaiming that, like, Christ is risen, and he's here, and he's saved us, and he loves you. So, like, seeing that,
right.
I just got completely off topic, but, like, stuff in the Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, knew what he was putting in.
Yeah,
obviously.
It was intended as a Christian work, not as a Christian manual, though, and I think that's the bigger issue.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, not to say, like, I'm pro using Lord of the Rings, vice versa. It's cool to see, how God will kind of teach me or have revelations in Lord of the Rings. And also, it's just cool to see how the Bible and the Lord of the Rings, how J.R.R. Tolkien wove in stuff like that.
Right.
And it's good to break down walls during a sermon.
Right.
And be like, hey, this is a good way to explain this if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. Something like that.
Right.
But, yeah, it's just completely
right.
completely off topic.
I mean, this the question I asked people as they came to me, it was, what did they do? But then the other aspect of that is, what did they think they did? And after that occurred, there was cheering. There were people kind of excited about all this. That they, to be fair, I think they do think that they cast out the spirit of racism. And in truth, and I think even Christians that are coming out of a good kind of a foundation of theology underestimate this, that being a Christian is hard, and isn't just this walk in the park all the time. I mean, the promise of Christ that people skip over all the time is, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. And to actually live out our faith, to stand up in the face of injustice, to do all these things is hard. It is challenging. There are times it's difficult. It costs us things. It costs us being able to I mean, it costs us a lot of our safety. That's a big thing. It costs us protection. It costs us comfort in order to pursue a thing that is better than everything else. Cost us everything else.
Yeah.
And it isn't. Racism isn't going to be cured by banging a stick on a stage and claiming we did it. It's going to take effort. It's going to take people drawing closer to Christ. It's going to take the gospel. It's going to take going into difficult places to proclaim truth in places that don't want to hear truth, and to proclaim grace in areas that don't want to hear grace, and to just do this and claim that they've done this in their apostolic kingship is a mockery of people that strive to pursue Christ in everything they have, because they understand that without Christ they have nothing. And this is just a mockery to that, and I think that's probably the point I'm the most offended, but also to encourage other people that chasing after Christ is hard, but is 100% worth it. Right. And it's not going to be an easy way out, but it is going to be a better way out. Yeah. And it's going to cost us things, and there are going to be days that I'm not going to be into it, but still during those days, do the hard thing and bow before Jesus Christ in his authority and his kingship. Yeah. For sure. And I say this as a person who has watched the gone through the Lord of the Rings like many times. I love that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings isn't the problem here. In fact, they tainted it, which is probably what annoys me most about this. Which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Hey,
but, you know,
as long as I'm back in quarantine, I think I'm going to be putting it on in the background of work now. So, yeah. It's just a cool 12 hours of work, you know?
Yep, I got to watch it again. I've been intentionally... I like save it like it's precious to me.
Right.
I have to watch it by myself.
It's precious.
Typically.
It has only been called that once before and not by someone.
Oh.
No.
Like I'll do group, you know, kind of Lord of the Rings.
No, you won't.
But I just
you
don't
won't.
enjoy
you
it.
Still won't watch it with me.
I typically find ways out of it.
I know.
If it's like an excuse, because like some people just don't understand, if that makes sense. Where I'll be like, oh, you know, I'm actually busy that day. But like, yeah, Lord of the Rings is. It is something that is to be watched by itself for me.
As both of us are moving into our new places, I'm going to have you over one day to watch a movie and eat dinner. I'm just going to put it on, but I promise I won't say anything. And we
can't do that.
Huh?
You in the last 2 seconds.
I absolutely could do it.
If it's a challenge.
No, I could do it, especially for that movie.
Myself. It's like the present, literally, and my mom's probably going to listen to this. I enjoy watching it with, like, people in my family, just because I feel like they understand it on the level that I do. That you don't mess with Lord of the Rings.
Right. And I won't.
I don't watch it with other people. You know, you choose very... So, like, watching it with my mom, I can do that. Like, with my siblings, I can do that. Or some siblings. Like, my brother. You know, like, that's good. But other than that, it's basically just me, myself, and I. Literally, for my... what was it? I think it was my 18th birthday. I literally requested, as my present, like, I wanted to get...
Yeah, you were at my house, weren't you?
By myself, and with, like, a bunch of food and candy, and just watch it.
Yeah, taking care of Izzy.
No. Wait, what was I doing?
You were taking care of Izzy.
On my 18th birthday?
Yeah. Watching my dog. I was
that when you were out of town completely and I was staying at your place?
Yeah.
Oh, I did watch a bunch of movies then. And eat a lot of candy.
Yes, you did. You did.
I literally woke up the next day and I was like sore.
I have a candy hangover.
Yeah, it's the worst. It's actually bad.
Oh. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this has been a controversial topic. Actually, both of them have. Everything we've talked about has been controversial today. So we know that you have thoughts on it, and also, and we're interested in those thoughts. And the best way to get to us is by going to thegospeloutpost.com/nobody-special, and there's a form to fill out to either ask us questions, Bible questions, ask us about anything else, or just to say hi, or even to tell Caleb to watch The Lord of the Rings with me. Please do that. Caleb, if they're on the social media, where can they go to find us?
You can go to Nobody Special Podcast, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, yeah, those places.
Not Twitter. Twitter's having a problem.
Not Twitter. I almost said it for some reason.
Twitter's having a real problem now too, but I don't want to get into that.
But yeah, you can find us there, and you can DM us or PM us there and ask us questions. And yeah.
Absolutely. So we appreciate everyone that tunes into this kind of show every week, and people that they man, tell your friends about this kind of show. Tell them it's a fun romp through current events and Christ.
Yes.
Or or say that in a better way. I don't know, but no, all of us
Yeah.
appreciate just everybody tuning in every time, and it's an honor and a pleasure to do this and to keep doing it. As I mentioned previous, Caleb and I are both in the process of moving, so things may come out a day or two behind schedule. So just give us grace in that process, and then hopefully things are going to even out. And then at some point, Caleb and I are going to be back in the same space again, and Caleb won't be in quarantine jail again. So,
Yes.
all of us appreciate the grace through our 4th accident episode. So we appreciate it. Yeah. Well,
All right.
Well, Caleb, I think that's going to do it for us today. So I'm Danny.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are Nobody
Nobody
Special.
special.